Audio video okay? Can you all hear me properly? Yeah? Audio okay? Alright, excellent. Audio fine. Good. So, welcome to the weekly current affairs review. Hi guys, hi. It's called What a Week, and before we start, let's just get some quick facts out of the way. So how we're going to do this is a very simple exercise. We will do this on a weekly basis, and a lot of you have told me that you're working. It's called What a Week because I felt like it. That's why. By the powers bestowed on me by the Supreme Court. Now here's the thing. Okay. A lot of you did tell me that you're working or there are issues with you attending it in the afternoon or something like that. So what I will do is from the next week onwards, which means this week, we will do it on a Sunday so that most of you can attend. And I have also spoken to the Unacademy team, and they have assured us that because this is current affairs, after this session is over, they will, as soon as possible, push it to YouTube as well, so that you can have a look at it in case you want to revise it. And all right, clear on this? Okay, all right. So let's start. Second, the point of this exercise is not only to teach you current affairs, is also for you to develop a sense of discretion, which means it is high time, all of you, whether you're preparing for 2020 or 2021, it's high time all of you realize that there are a lot of things in current affairs that you have to ignore, or you have to do them from a more umbrella point of view, or from a very generalist point of view. So it's high time you understood that, and it's high time you understood how to essentially know what to read and what not to read as far as current affairs is concerned. Third, this is going to be a two-way street. I will teach you what is relevant, and then I will ask you to start making consolidated notes on the basis of what we've taught. I will give you the sources for it. I'll give you the kind of questions you must be answering in your notes, so that in the span of a year, in the span of your entire preparation, you're able to very clearly establish an organized format of current affairs, so that it also coincides with your note making and everything else as well. Okay? And that's the larger idea behind it. Having said that, I have to apologize on two counts. First, I have to apologize for yesterday because there were some tech issues because of which I wasn't able to come online. I wasn't getting good internet. So I'm sorry I had to reschedule it last minute. I did inform on the Telegram channel, but in case some of you did come here to find there was no class, I am genuinely very sorry. I'm sorry for the couple of days that I was not around because I was attending to a personal strategy which required my presence. Okay. Anyways, let's continue. The rules of the class are very clear and they've always been the same. Questions in the question box only. You will comment only if I've asked you to write something in the comment box, or if I asked you if you've understood or not, or you're facing something very immediate in form of a tech issue or something like that. Questions strictly in the comment box. Okay? All right. Now, please refresh in the case of you having a tech issue. Okay? Now, as I have promised and as I have said so, we're starting with current affairs this week onwards. And in this week itself, on my YouTube channel, I will release your entire polity crash course for Prelims 2020. And we will do it on a week-by-week manner. So this week, I will release part 1 to 4, which is territory, citizenship, rights, duties, and DPSP. You will have it on the YouTube channel by the end of the week itself. Okay, so don't worry about it. But remember, this is only for prelims, which means if you're looking for a deeper discussion, you'd have to read your textbooks in a little bit amount of detail. So I'm keeping up with my promises. I'm making sure that I'm delivering as much as I can. Okay. Also, this will not be live. This will be videos which are pushed on the YouTube channel. The link I've given here. Just have a look at it and watch it at your own pace, on your own time. No issues at all. In addition to this, I must also clarify a question which has been asked to me quite a fair amount of times with regards to the possible date of conducting the exam. I hope all of you are fairly clear that under no circumstances will this exam stand cancelled. And given the fact that the CBSE is going to conduct its exam in the month of July, and CBSE would require a little bit of infrastructure on their end, so possibly the civil services exam would be pushed in and around to the month of August, which was previously the calendar year anyway, which essentially means the exam will happen most likely in the month of August and the mains will happen in December. Now, I understand that a lot of you would be questioning in and around August for sure. A lot of you would be questioning, will the time between the pre and the mains get shortened? Don't worry, that's not going to happen. The UPSC is a very fair organization. They will take the interests of the students in mind, and all of that will be taken care of. Clear on this? Okay? All right. This is my name. This is my email address. This is the email Telegram channel. This is my YouTube channel. And in case you're someone looking for more courses, and if you think I'm good enough, please use the code. As always, I get food because of your code. So let's start. Now, the last week has been quite confusing in terms of current affairs. There's been a lot that has happened. There has been news about Kaveri water management organizational changes. There has been news about Vande Bharat, which is the evacuation program. There has been news about AIIB extending a loan. There has been the news about MP Labs, which stands to be cancelled. There has been news about genome sequencing, which has been submitted by the CSIR. Each of these very specific, very small news items are items which fit into the larger scheme of things, which is, for example, when you're studying Kaveri water management, you don't have to worry about the news here. Okay, Anisha will be on the drive by the end of today. Okay, just focus on the class for the moment, please. Thank you. Now, for example, the Kaveri water management issue. In your core GS preparation, when you will study interstate water management disputes, you will study Article 263 and beyond. Your teachers, your books, they will all teach you this. The news that has happened last week is just a one-line addition to this, that now the management authority would be under the Jal Shakti Ministry. That does not require you to deep dive into the Kaveri water management problem right now. If you haven't read it before, wait for you to finish it at the appropriate time and then carry on. That's the idea. Okay. Second, for example, you talk about the AIIB loan. When you talk about the AIIB loan, about how there's a loan extension that would be given by the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, when your IR syllabus gets completed, when your teachers teach you IR, or you're reading IR on your own, whatever your case might be, and when you're preparing AIIB as a topic, probably in the introduction, you will see one line which would be in current affairs that it was in news because it's extending loan facilities to organizations. That's it. You will not be asked anything more. So you have to learn to contextualize things, which is very, very important. Clear on this? And that's the kind of purpose for class today. Okay? All right, let's start. The primary issues that I would like to be discussing with you today are first, labor laws, which have been vehemently in the news. In fact, in today's newspaper also, there are 2 articles on labor laws questioning the entire move to be unconstitutional, or at least, if not illegal, definitely immoral. So we'll discuss those as well. Second, Unfortunately, we had the LG Polymer Gas Leak tragedy, so that also brings things into context. And third, the editorial spoke about the PM Cares Fund and how does the PM Cares Fund differentiate with the PM National Relief Fund. Clear on this? So let's look at each of these. Let's understand for the exam how much of this is relevant, how do you organize this, and how do you put things into conflict, okay, or you put things into a sense of structure, okay. Again, I will tell you this: please don't comment in the comment box unless you're facing a tech issue or I've spoken to you about something. It breaks the flow of the class, and I always keep an eye on the comment box just to ensure any of you aren't facing a tech issue. If you have a question, put it in the question box. I will answer it. If you put it in the comment box, I'm sorry, I will not be answering the question. Clear on this? Let's start, because it's for the betterment of the whole class. Let's start with the labor law reforms. Okay, just refresh it. In case there's a problem, just get back to me. Okay, all right. If there's a problem, are you guys facing an audio video problem? Is that the case? Is that the case? No. Then it possibly would be an internet connection on a specific user's phone. Let's start. What is the context? First, understand this, and then I will teach you how to organize it. Okay? What is the context? Now, I understand that the newspapers have been talking about, please listen to this very carefully. The newspapers have been talking about very specific technical changes in labor laws. For example, the Uttar Pradesh government has suspended labor laws for a few years. They are going to change, for example, a few states have changed the minimum working hours. A lot of the protections available to the working class may not be available in a few states. Now, please understand, these are specific state changes. The question is, how would this be asked in the exam? Okay, how would this be asked in the exam? Refresh our thing in case the problem, get back to me. You would not be asked any of these changes whatsoever in the prelims exam. So please don't bother memorizing it. I don't need you to know which state made what change in the context of what labor law. This is clear. So how do you use this? The objective is for you to use this specific development as one line in a mains answer asking you labor reforms in the country. And that's it. Your line would be, labor reforms have been in the news because due to the coronavirus pandemic, several states relaxed their labor laws to boost economic productivity, such as UP, MP, Gujarat, etc., etc. That's all. That is all you need to know as far as these specific instances are concerned. I hope I've made myself very clear. So let's understand this. 3 BJP ruled states, UP, MP, and Gujarat, and several other states ruled by the Congress, such as Rajasthan and Punjab, as well as the BJD ruled Odisha, which is called, has also made some changes. Now, what are these changes? Are not needed for you. Of course, today's Hindu editorial brilliantly pinpoints these changes in one paragraph. I think the editorial on the second page of the editorial column explains this very well. So in case you need some context, you can always read those lines, that the number of worker limits, the number of hour limits, all of those things have been relaxed. Okay, that's the larger idea. But the question isn't that. The question is, does this make sense? Are we stepping in the right direction for better labor reforms? So let's understand, what should your introduction be in your current affairs notes, which says labor reforms? What should your first lines be? Your first few lines would be any recent developments in this. Second, labor falls in the concurrent list. Third, there are over 200 state laws and close to 50 central laws governing various aspects of labor. Employment conditions, salaries, protections, all of those things. And there is technically no set definition for labor laws in the country. Now, boys and girls, this is more than enough to have a good enough introduction for your mains answers. This is good enough for you to set the tone of the question right. And that's all. So when you're making a note, when you're making a consolidated note on labor reforms, which you will refer to through the entire year, this much introduction is more than enough. Now you move to the second stage. I told you, labor is in the concurrent list. And when labor is in the concurrent list, this means both the center and the states can make laws on it. If there is a central law on something specific, it overrules the states. Simple enough. But if there is a state law and there is no central law on the same, the state law continues to exist. Simple as this. Now the question comes, how do state laws get the powers? How do states get the powers to make these changes when something in the concurrent list exists? The only way states get a power like this is if a central law gives the states the powers to do so. And the central law does. One of these laws is called the Factories Act. And under Section 5 of the Factories Act, the state governments can make certain changes in the wake of an emergency. The question mark remains with what constitutes an emergency and not, which is a matter of legal dispute. But as far as the legality of things are concerned, this is how it works. Simple enough. Labor is in the concurrent list, which means both the center and the states can make laws. Now, the center, through a law called the Factories Act, allows the states to make special considerations, to make changes in the laws in the case of an emergency. That emergency could be defined in multiple ways. Does that include a pandemic or not? Well, as far as the court text is concerned, it does not. But it's up to the courts to decide because the Supreme Court is the interpreter of the Constitution. Simple enough. Now, because we need to understand things from a national perspective, let's look at this. And please pay absolute attention to this. As of today, we have four very specific kinds of labor laws. The first are labor laws which govern conditions of work. Second are labor laws which govern wages and remuneration. Third, social security, which means if something goes wrong, if something happens while you're working, or let us say giving you a sense of employment protection, so social security. And fourth, employment security and industrial relations. This largely governs disputes in the organizational space. Now, each of these headings have multiple sets of laws within them. And that's always been the problem with India. India has had a large chunk of laws, multiple laws on the same issue. For example, Section 498A of the Indian Penal Code also talks about harassment to the wife by husband, relatives, or friends. You also have the Domestic Violence Act. You also have the Dowry Prohibition Act. You have multiple laws on the larger issue of domestic violence. You do not have a single law. In the same way, the same application, the same analogy also gets applied to something called the Uniform Civil Code, an idea. It does not exist. We have multiple personal laws in the country. The Hindu Marriages Act, the Muslim Marriages Act, the Christian Marriages Act, in case two people from different religions want to get married, the Special Marriages Act, Different Properties Act, so multiple laws. So the idea has been, why don't we put all of this together in one common law called the Uniform Civil Code? What applies to domestic violence, what applies to Uniform Civil Code also applies here. So what happens here is, at the very moment, you have multiple laws governing conditions of work, such as the Factories Act of 1948, the Contract Labor Act of 1970, the Shops and Commercial Establishments Act. Then you have the Wages and Remuneration Act of 1948. So you have the Minimum Wages Act of 1948, Payments of Wages Act, Employment Act of 1952, Workmen Compensation Act of 23, Employee State Insurance Act of 1948, so on and so forth. So each of these broad branches of labor law have multiple laws which govern multiple elements or multiple issues. And we need to start consolidating them. Okay? We need to start consolidating them. And this has been happening since 2019. What you see in red are pending legislations. What you see in green is a past legislation. Okay? So don't get confused with the word code. Code basically means a set of instructions. These instructions are nothing but like any other law. Clear? So what we plan to do is we want to merge all of the condition laws into one. We'll have one law covering all conditions of work, and we'd like to call that the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code of 2019. Similarly, we would like to merge all the laws governing wages and remuneration into one, the Code on Wages 2019. The same way, all the laws governing Social Security must be merged into one, called the Code on Social Security, again introduced in 2019. And all laws governing industrial relations must be clubbed into one, must be merged into one, called the Industrial Relations Code 2019. Now, out of all of these, it is only the Code on Wages which has been passed so far. And it was passed in August 2019. You don't need to know the month. You just need to know out of all the three, one has been passed. The other three are currently pending. Okay? Out of all the three, or out of all the four, three which are in red are pending, green which has been passed. This is something you must know. So, what is our primary agenda for labor law reform? Our primary agenda for labor law reform is consolidation of labor laws. And how do we plan to do this? We want to have one law for basically four things. 1, conditions of work. 2, wages. 3, social security. And 4, industrial relations. Now, boys and girls, pay attention to this. This is how you replicate. If in the mains or in the essay, you're going to write about labor reforms, these 4 headings, you see these 4 headings, conditions of work, wages and remuneration, social security, employment security and industrial relations, all of these become your subheadings of an answer. Do you understand this? Introduction set, and you have 4 subheadings. First heading, conditions of work. Second, wages and remuneration. Third, social security. Fourth, employment security. And under each of these headings, you can explain what are the problems, what are the solutions, what can we do to make it better. It's that simple. Are you able to understand this? Are you able to put all of this into perspective? So that's the idea. Clear on this? Good. Now, all 4 are very specific laws. Now you have to pause and think and understand. How much of detail do I need to get into for each of these laws? Would I be asked a specific question on each of these laws? Highly unlikely. I would be using each of these 4 into a larger question of labor reforms, which means I just simply need to understand the broad dimensions to this, the broad basics to this. And that's what we're going to do in the next slide. Clear on this? Okay, so let's start. You have to know all 4 because all 4 are solutions to the problems. Do you understand this? Your solutions are already given. You just have to explain the solutions. And the problems are very simple. It's corrupt, the payment pages don't happen on time, there's a higher issue of informalization of workforce. These are standard issues that you will all know or you will all be taught. The solutions are rights, which means it wants to consolidate 13 labor laws. You don't need to know the exact number. This is to explain this to you. So I'll put across. You don't need to know the exact number. You should know a few examples, such as the Factories Act of 1948, the Mines Act of 1952, the Dock Workers Act of 1966, the Contract Labor Act of 1972, and the Interstate Migrant Workers Act. Now, if you've read the newspaper, this would ring a bell for you, that it was in the news. Why? Because we're looking at interstate movement of migrant workers. So now do you understand how this is just a very small dot in the larger ecosystem of labor reforms? Clear on this? Understood this? That is how you have to put things into perspective. Now, what are you covering? Establishments covered by the code are registered to required with registering officers appointed by either central or state governments. Welfare facilities, working conditions, and work hours for different type of establishments and workers will be prescribed by the central or the state government through rules. So now you can add 2 plus 2. The Factories Act talks about work hours. Okay? When all of this comes into one, there will be one law applicable, one format of work hours. Because under Section 5 of the Factories Act, the states get the powers to change all of these. When all of this comes together, you will have broad conditions set up. In the same way, the code also sets up occupational safety boards at the national and state level to advise the central government and state governments on the standards, rules, and regulations to be framed under the code. Very simple example. If somebody, for example, is working as a factory worker in a detergent industry, and detergents are made using very strong and very, very heavy chemicals. So have you ensured that the workers working in this industry are adequately protected with, let's say, wearing gloves, wearing masks, there are enough sanitization facilities and things like that? So that's the kind of work we want to do. That's the kind of consolidation we want to bring in. Now understand, you're looking at one paragraph in your mains answer. Your heading says working conditions. Your solution says the occupational safety, health and working conditions, which is a pending law, will eventually solve the following issues. Clear on this? More than enough. The code creates special provisions for certain classes of establishments such as factories, mines, dock workers, construction workers. These include special provisions for licenses, safety regulations, and duty of employers. Now, you don't need to know the technical details. This is more than enough. Clear on this? Understood this so far? Any problem? Good. So, yeah. All right. Excellent. And always remember, this is a pending law. I will also share the sources that I refer to this. The best way and the simplest way to read up on a law is go to a website called PRS and look for something called Bill Track, and you can find something called a PRS Bill Summary. In fact, whatever you see in front of the slide in front of you is essentially taken from the PRS Bill Summary. Okay? Always share your sources, always tell the world what you're using, and always give credit for content. This content that you see in front of you is from the PRS. So I can understand some of you may have some doubts regarding how will it exactly work. So you can read the PRS summary once, and once you do, they will explain certain key issues with it. And that's more than enough. Of course, Maya, I'll give you the PPT. Okay? I'll put it on the Telegram channel after this is done. Clear on this? Simple? So sorted. Next point. The Code on Wages 2019. This is essentially regulating the amount of money you have to pay to your wages. I put this in green. This means it is passed. Okay. The code replaces 4 laws. You don't need to know all of the names, just a few, one or two would be enough. The Payment of Wages Act of 1936, the Minimum Wages Act of 1948, the Payment of Bonus Act of 1965, and the Equal Remuneration Act of 1976. I'm also giving you very simple. I'm also going to give you a very simple way to do this. Even if you don't remember the years, that's okay. If you do, great. If you don't, it's fine. Clear on this? Understood this? Yes? Good. So what does this law do? What does this law do? Sorry. It will cover to all, it will apply to period, all employees. Clear? It does not means foreign exchange rates in India are determined on the basis of a combination of market and non-market factors. And the RBI has certain boundaries that foreign exchange rates should not exceed these boundaries. If they do, then the RBI will intervene and pump in foreign exchange or take out foreign exchange depending on the situation. But the larger ecosystem remains the same. The larger boundary remains the same. This is essentially like a curfew method, right? I'm sure all of you who lived in hostels will understand what a curfew is. Today, of course, the entire country understands what a curfew or a lockdown is because we're in one. This is your boundary. You do whatever you want to here. You breach these boundaries, we'll catch you and we'll hold you accountable. That's what essentially the wages code is. This does not mean that the government is regulating private sector salaries entirely. It's basically saying that, boss, this is the bare minimum. Simple as that. And that is why this code also introduces the concept of a floor wage. The floor wage says, according to this, the central government will fix a floor wage taking into account the living standards of workers. Further, it may set different floor wages for different geographical areas. Before fixing the floor wage, the central government may obtain the advice of the Central Advisory Board and may consult with the state governments. Even if you can't remember the procedure, it is fine. You just need to know that the law or the code is talking about something called a floor wage. Okay? The minimum wages decided by the center or the state government must be higher than the floor wage. In case the minimum wages are higher than the floor wage, they cannot reduce the minimum wages. Clear on this? Understood? So this is essentially to make sure that the money that the workers get is not only for the work that they do, but also takes into account the general living standards. So if things are getting expensive, or if the living standards have to be of a certain quality, then you can't pay a person a very low amount of money just because the minimum wage is this. This is called a floor wage. Minimum wage is this is much you have to pay. Floor wage is, boss, this is the amount that you have to pay for sustenance. This is a more relative concept. This is a more comprehensive concept. This is the same thing as absolute poverty and relative poverty. Absolute poverty is, boss, you're poor if you're below the poverty line. You're not poor if you're above the poverty line. But poverty is not that simple. Poverty is a relative concept. Because if your poverty line, for example, is $1,000, and there's somebody who's getting 1,100, and there's somebody who's getting 900, there really isn't a lot of difference between the 1,100 person and the 900 person. The standard of life is more or less the same. The standard of life is more or less equidistant. It's a relativity, because poverty would also mean access to education, access to health, access to nutrition, access to recreation. These are all very important elements of a human life. So you've used the same concept and understood what a floor wage is. Okay? Now, fixing the minimum wage. The code prohibits employers for paying wages less than the minimum wage. The minimum wages will be notified by the central or the state governments. This will be based on time or number of pieces produced. The minimum wages will be revised and reviewed by the central government or the state government within 5 years. While fixing minimum wages, the center or state governments may take into account factors such as skill of workers and difficulty of work. Okay? And difficulty of work does not only mean that the work is difficult, it could also mean that the conditions of work are also difficult, right? Okay? Now, over time, the center of the state government may be chasing the 250 word limit. Clear on this? And this has been passed. Third, the Code on Social Security. Now, you may remember last month, one second. Anshu Malik, could you please tell me how have I mixed up? Yes, please tell me. Okay. Anyways. No doubt. I'm just giving you for an example. See, beta, fix the number of hours. The normal rate of wages. I'm talking about, beta, Anshuman, I'm talking about the current state. The current state. If the law gets implemented, then it will be twice the rate of the floor wages. Okay? Clear? All right. Thank you, Anshuman. Clear? Okay. We then move to the Code on Social Security 2019. Understood this? Clear? All right. The Code on Social Security. Okay. Yes, Santosh. The Code on Social Security it replaces 9 laws. Again, the number is not required, relating to Social Security. It includes the Employees Provident Fund Act of 1952, the Maternity Benefit Act of 1961, the Unorganized Workers Social Security Act of 2008. What is Social Security? Social Security refers to the measures to ensure healthcare and provision of income security to workers. And this is your definition right here. Social Security refers to measures to ensure access to healthcare and provision of income security to workers. Okay. Now, what are your Social Security schemes? Under the code, the central government may notify various social security schemes for the benefit of workers. These include Employees Provident Fund, Employee Pension Scheme, Employees Deposit Linked Insurance Scheme. They may also provide for a provident fund, a pension fund, and an insurance scheme, respectively. The government may also notify an employee's state insurance scheme to provide sickness, maternity, and other benefits, gratuity to workers on completing 5 years of employment or less than 5 years in certain cases such as death, maternity benefits, cess for welfare of building and construction workers, compensation to employees in case of injury or disease. So what's this basic idea about? The idea is, I need you to first understand, anybody who gets a salary in this country is a worker. Simple as that. You're going to be a worker, I'm a worker, we all get salaries, we're all workers. Simple as this. Anybody who receives a salary is a worker. Now, which means the government wants to regulate the relationship between the employer and the employee. And because the government believes that we are in a welfare state, we'd like to take care of the people who work in organizations. And how would you like to do that? You would like to ensure that every person who's working in the organization is insured, number one. Two, if you finish an X number of years in an organization, this already happens, you want to just consolidate it, is you want to ensure that you get something called gratuity. Gratuity is like a loyalty kind of a bonus, that you finished X number of years, so you're given essentially a certain amount of money. Third, women employees who would require maternity benefits, certain financial incentives or whatever it is. Fourth, you would also require a certain cess for the welfare of building and construction workers because they are at a very, very high health risk. And fifth, in case an injury happens while working, somebody's hand gets cut in the machine, somebody suffers from temporary or permanent blindness, or somebody has a disability, then you have to ensure that the people are receiving certain benefits, or the families or the dependents are receiving certain benefits. This is essentially to take care of your people. Now, this automatically tells you there are subheadings to this: insurance, health, gratuity, and occupational safety. Clear? These become your subheadings to a larger question on social security. Clear on this? Simple enough? Okay. Two more points. The central or state government may notify specific schemes for gig workers, platform workers, and unorganized workers to provide various benefits such as life and disability cover. Gig workers refer to workers outside of the traditional employer-employee relationship, such as freelancers. We are classic examples of freelancers. Okay, UPSC teachers are classic examples of freelancers. So thankfully, we might also get some protection. Platform workers are workers who access their organizations or individuals using online platforms or earn money by providing them with specific services. Unorganized workers include home-based and self-employed workers. So there are provisions for also taking care of these into consideration. Coverage and registration, this is the last point. The code specifies different applicability threshold for the schemes. For example, the EPF scheme will apply to establishments with 20 or more employees. The ESI scheme will apply to establishments with 10 or more employees. Do you understand what EPF is? Employment Provident Fund. We've done this here. See, Employment Provident Fund. Okay, clear? And ESI is Employee State Insurance. All right? Okay, clear? And will apply to certain establishments with 10 or more employees, to all establishments which carry out hazardous or life-threatening work notified by the central government. These thresholds may be amended by the central government. All eligible, no unnecessary conversation in the comment box, please. All eligible establishments are required to register under the code unless they are already registered by any other law. Clear? Now, what all do you need to know from here? You need to know what all can we do and for who all can we do. So this should answer two very specific questions. What can be done and for whom can it be done? That's all. That's all you need to know. Even if you don't remember the technical details here, it is completely fine. Okay? Even if you don't know the technical details of employments with more than 20, more than 10, that's completely okay. It'll be fine. Clear on this? Okay? Understood this? Fine? All right. Clear? Okay. The last one. Industrial Relations Code. The Industrial Relations Code provides for the recognition of trade unions, notice period for strikes and lockouts, standing orders, and the resolution of industrial disputes. It subsumes and replaces, if it gets passed, 3 labor laws: the Industrial Disputes Act, the Trade Unions Act, and the Industrial Standing Orders Act of 47, 26, and 46, respectively. Now, these are pending legislations. Trade unions that have a membership of at least 10% of the workers or 100 workers will be registered. The union with 75% of the workers in an establishment will be the sole negotiating unions. For example, let's say there's a big chocolate factory. Now, there is in the big chocolate factory, you will often see, a bunch of people who are working on on mixing the cocoa powder. There'll be a bunch of people who will be working in the packaging department. Let us say the people who are mixing the cocoa powder are the largest people and they have a union. So if there is a negotiation that has to happen, it will happen with the people who mix cocoa powder. So that's the basic explanation. Do we understand this simple enough, right? Yeah. The employee cannot go on strike unless he gives a notice for a strike within 6 weeks before striking and within 14 days of giving such a notice. Such similar provisions can also exist for lockout of workers. Lockout is the opposite of strike. Now, please understand, this point explains something very simple to you, that the right to strike is legal with certain exceptions in the country. Clear? Because the right to strike is an implied explanation of Article 90. Clear on this? So that is why the right to strike, the right to protest is legal as long as it's not essential services, it does not breach the larger ecosystem. Okay? Now, industrial establishments with 100 workers must prepare standing orders on matters listed in the schedule and have them certified. That, boss, this is essentially how we're going to run things. Factories, mines, or plantations with 100 or more such workers are required to take prior permission of the center or the state before laying off or retrenching their workers. This is a very, very important point. Okay? Factories or mines or plantations with more than 100 workers need to take permission from the center or the state before laying off their workers. Do you understand what this means? This means if this law passes and if a factory has to fire workers and the factory has more than 100 workers here, in that case, you would require permission of the center or the states. Clear? The code provides for the constitution of industrial tribunals for the settlement of industrial disputes. Each industrial tribunal will consist of a judicial member and an administrative member. This is also like a consumer court or an income tax tribunal or a competition tribunal. It's essentially the same thing. You'll always see one judicial member and one administrative member who specializes in this. Clear, these administrative members, in my opinion, would usually be senior IRS officers or retired IRS officers. Clear on this? Samajh mein aaye? Simple enough? Clear? Good. Now, let me put all of this into perspective for you. Now you have to pay attention. Don't write anything. Just see what's happening. You have to create a large consolidated note for labor, which will be useful for you for both the prelims and the mains. So you have to do this in the format of an answer. Your introduction should have any recent reasons as to why labor has been in the news and a broad context of the legality of labor. For example, I taught you that labor is in the concurrent list. This is something that if you do, I'll be very happy. Third, quote any one data on labor. Like, for example, 90% of India's workforce is in the informal space, which brings the larger issue of labor into question. Or India ranks so low on labor welfare in the world as per ILO's XYZ report. Remember, I've taught you reports and I've taught you ILI also does ILO, International Labour Organization. So pick up a report from there. Clear on this? Okay, simple as this. And this is enough. Now see how this works. Every time you see something with respect to labor in the news, just keep adding it and add it with a different ink. Because when you add it with a different ink, what happens is, please understand this, this is very important. What happens is, you will know how many times has this been in the news automatically making it relevant for the exam. Clear on this? This is your own way of data analysis. Clear? Then you divide it into 4 parts. Right? We've discussed this. 4 parts. Working conditions, wages, social security, disputes. Okay? Each of these will have 2 issues. What are my problems? And what are my solutions? There you go. Finished. Clear on this? And that's how you prepare a consolidated note on labor law. And this note will last you for one entire year. This, boys and girls, is the point of class. Clear on this? Understood? You can do this in any form you like, that's not a problem. But this is the point of class, to put things into perspective. Clear? Understood this? Simple enough? Yes? Good. Very good. Okay? Good. Done? Yes? I'll take some questions and let me announce this. I will meet you again tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. and cover the remainder of the topics in the same manner as this. Okay? So I will see you again tomorrow at 12:30. I will raise a class list and I'll put this on the Telegram channel also. We'll do this properly. We'll go slow about this so that you will learn over a period of time. Beta, your conclusion is your solution. Okay? The conclusion is your solution. Just give me some minutes. I need to go through some questions. Okay? Okay, I'll have a look at it and get back to you. Rahul, the governance classes will start probably 2 weeks from now. I'm finishing polity. It takes some time. Shantanu, I've answered the polity question. Garima, sure, when it comes in the news, I will answer it. I will share the presentation on the Telegram channel. Justice Shri Krishna says it's illegal to make Arogya Setu app mandatory. It's for the government to decide. It's currently sub judice. So it doesn't matter. Okay. The class will cover current affairs from all dimensions, Shashank. Sushant, I have received your email. I'm shortlisting it. ILO doesn't need to be studied in detail with respect to labor. As an international organization, where is it headquartered? What are the reports that make is more than enough, Suriti. Yes, Maya, I'll be putting this on Telegram. MP government has launched FIR at doorstep. Law and order is the state subject and center decides on the process of it. Is it within the... Beta, Ishan, IPC and CPC and CRPC are in the concurrent list. Law and order is state, IPC, CRPC are in the concurrent list. So the states can do this. Yes, labor unions, Vinod, is in today's newspaper that they said that they will not appeal. They will request the ILO. You can't appeal to the ILO. Nobody appeals against the government of India's decision. Yeah, the e-commerce policy draft. I will. The second one is an act. The present relaxations, Abhijit, are going to be difficult for the labor workers. That's the whole point. Okay? All right. I've received both of the mails. I'll just give you a general conclusion also, so don't worry. Okay. I have organized screenshots of relevant news. That's also fine. Wouldn't the current labor law relaxation lead to increase in exploitation? Yes. I just told you, Praga, how to make notes. This is how we're going to learn. So the first note you're going to prepare through this week is a consolidated article on labor law. Okay. PRS does not take any authority. PRS is an NGO. It just follows the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha websites and does it. Everybody can access what PRS does. hire and fire policies in China is too minimum. Provident fund is where both the employee and the employer pay. State insurance is where the government and the employee pay. Yes, a person can be both. Right to strike is legal. Yes, it's implied under this. Yeah. It's not fundamental. It's an implied right. Yes, it is, Abhishek. But it is not applicable across all states, Abhishek. Okay. Just out of curiosity. I have ever appeared for SSBs, yes, after school, when we had plans to join the army. Okay. Now, let me just come back to this and take a minute on this. What should your broader conclusion be? I'll tell you what your broader conclusion will be. Your broader conclusion would be just summarizing what's there and 2 lines, or you just have to answer one question. Why is it important for a country, a poetic end, to safeguard its labor? Something poetic. That should be enough for an answer. No, ILO can't punish. Okay? That's usually, whenever you have thematic questions, the conclusion is always, why should you do this? Because the strength of the nation lies in its labor class. Now give me 2 minutes, I need to address a few other things also. Just give me 2 minutes. Okay? Now, I was speaking about this in the beginning of the class as well. A lot of these events have happened, and I need to talk about these. Okay, just 1 second. For example, बिल्कुल use कर सकते हैं जी DPSP. Just for example, you would be seeing a lot of these IR related articles in the newspaper. है ना कि world order में ये हो जाएगा, India को ये करना चाहिए, वो करना चाहिए. Just hold on. It's too early for you to worry about it. ठीक है? And mostly those articles are too specialized. तुमको IR में लिखना क्या है? तुमको IR में लिखना है कि ओवरऑल वर्ल्ड में क्या चेंजेस होंगे और इंडिया स्पेसिफिकली क्या चेंज होंगे. फॉर एग्जांपल, आई थिंक इट वाज yesterday's article or today's article in the Hindu. I think yesterday's article, a brilliant article, yesterday's article on the changing global order post COVID. That is a good article. उसको एक बार पढ़ लो, बहुत है कि वर्ल्ड में ये चेंज आने हैं. These are the changes that is going to happen, and this is how we must accustom to those changes. That's all. All these random articles here or there, China is pushing here, India is pushing back, US is I don't know what in their own world, not relevant. Don't do it. Okay. Second, stop following, yes, beautiful article yesterday. Stop following very specific concerted news on COVID कि ट्रेन चालू कर दी, ये हमारा डेटा यहाँ जा रहा है, वहाँ जा रहा है, कोई जरूरत नहीं. From the UPSC point of view, you don't need it. COVID has to be done in a very, very organized format, so don't worry about it. ये सब कि नहीं देखो वहाँ पे ट्रेन चालू कर दी, वो लेबर लॉ वहाँ हो गया है, वहाँ पे लोग ये मार रहे हैं, वो राइट हो रहा है, ये सब not needed. Specific day-to-day data developments not needed. वो कर्नाटका में relapse हो गया, आज के पेपर में था, not needed at all. Okay, which now brings me to the Arogya Setu app. Okay, which is also no problem. Now please understand this. As of now, you don't have to worry about. खुद ही सोचो, just cross check. तुमसे यूपीएससी में पूछेंगे क्या आरोग्य सेतु राइट टू प्रिवेसी वायलेट कर रहा है कि नहीं? यूपीएससी वालों को भी अपनी नौकरी प्यारी है ना यार, वो नहीं पूछेंगे. That's why. And that answers the question actually. समझ में आ गया? Simple. The last part I want to discuss is, the last week was also a very unfortunate event, the Handwara attacks that happened. Okay? Now, as far as the UPSC is concerned, you will use incidences like these in 1 or 2 lines, maximum 1 or 2 lines. When you are writing a larger answer on internal security, non-state actors, terrorism. But you do not have to get into the details of this as far as the exam is concerned. Okay, and that's all I'd like to say on that. Are we clear on this? समझ में आ रहा है? So just understand this. Okay, clear? Good. I'll meet you tomorrow at 12:30. Thank you. One shouldn't discuss things. I do not like discussing things publicly, but thank you so much for all your wishes and your condolences and your best wishes. They've always been with us. It's been a difficult time for the family. It's been a difficult time for all of us, and we're coping up with it. And thank you so much for your always for your help. Okay. Tomorrow I'll see you at 12:30 tomorrow. Okay. We'll finish up the second edition to this. We'll cover PM cares. We'll cover the LG Polymer Gas Leak. I'll teach you how it has to be done in a larger ecosystem, and we'll cover it. And yes, your preparation strategy, everything and all is in process. Just give me some time. I'm also just putting myself together. Just give me some time. Clear? Don't worry. We'll cover everything tomorrow. Okay. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow at 12:30. Take care. See you. Bye bye. Thank you so much. It was personal. Thank you.